Here's a little bit of a before. I'm just starting to take off the seam sealer and sand down all of the seams, and I did throw one quick stitch weld on to just test everything out. So yeah, all the marks with the black markers, I'm gonna stitch weld every few inches, just for a couple inches. I'm not really going crazy. Really no rhyme or reason. I was gonna try to go in between spot welds, but I mean, I'm just kind of going here and there everywhere, mostly on the strut tower, this strut tower seam right here. I'm not sure, some things about like where this top frame horn cover meets the frame itself. I'm not sure if that's even really necessary. I gotta start looking around, but for now, since I'm doing this outside, I really need to get it buttoned up and put in a little bit of primer. So I'm gonna try to get this done because, yeah, Florida rains a lot. So I'm gonna get back to it. Made a little bit of progress today. I'm pretty much already overdoing this. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Besides peeling all the seam sealer, you really got to get everything out of the seams. I didn't do much welding down here. This was already welded. I added a glob right there. Couple more underneath here. It's really tough to weld to this stuff because there's so much crap underneath the seams that it's just getting a lot of porosity in the welds. These ones down here didn't come out so bad. That one's pretty bad, that one's pretty bad. I had to grind them down because they were just, every time I would hit it, it would start to drip some stuff, some of the wax in between. I got a good tip on the Mark II, Mark III forums about preheating everything. Unfortunately, my torch ran out of propane, so I didn't get a chance to really do that. So these lower ones, I was not only pulling some of the wax and seam sealer through, or from between there, I believe, because I was getting pretty good penetration and getting all the way to the backside, I did sand it down a little bit. I think I was pulling some crap through this way because every single weld was kind of bubbling up. The weld would go, and then all of a sudden you'd get like this tail coming out of it, and no matter how I adjusted the wire speed, it just wasn't working out. So I'm gonna throw some seam sealer on top of this stuff anyway because I don't really want those exposed seams, so it's all gonna get covered up. I mean, I hate to say I'm not gonna do this side, but I have to. I'm noticing that there are some rust spots that are kind of worse on this side, so I'm definitely gonna have to do some work to this side. I think I'm just gonna call it a day on this one. I put it in primer. I don't think I'm gonna do any more. There's really no point in stitch welding anything farther forward than the suspension. I mean, even this is kind of cutting it close. Well, I guess it would make a difference. I don't know. I don't honestly even know. It's just time consuming, and I want to drive this car, and I'm pretty much just gonna clean up as much as I can and then just paint the bay. Still undecided if I want to go. I originally wanted to go all stark white with the engine bay, the interior, super clean white, but I mean, I might do that eventually. I think for now I have some kind of gunmetal grayish. I might just do the entire bay in a gunmetal gray and call it quits. Sorry, I'm gonna go inside because it's starting to rain now. I've got a pretty good update on my whole trans situation. I was just checking out this transmission. This is the one that was pulled out of the Mark III originally. I was gonna sell this one on the side, kind of untested, for about 50 bucks. It does have a crack right there on the front starter mount, and I believe that hole is stripped out. I was just checking some things out real quick before I go and get rid of this. When I bought the car, the kid, I didn't take much from it, but he said the transmission was worth a bunch of money, and I just assumed that he thought that a 5-speed from a VR6 was just worth a bunch of money. So, like I said, I was getting ready to get rid of this for about 50 bucks and go with the Corrado transmission because I know this looks like it's been gone over. The The clutch was new. It was swapped into the car, so I believe this is a known, better working. The gear ratios are better. Well, I just kind of took a look at this, and I thought I'd give it a turn. You guys see what I'm seeing? Now, as far as I know, that means this has a limited slip differential in it. Now, because I know it's still open, I can check this one out. Hopefully the lighting's good. This one's an open diff. You turn one, the other goes the other way. You turn this one, and they both move. I can't believe this. I can't believe there was a limited slip in there, and I almost got rid of it. I'm so glad I just checked this out. I don't even, what am I going to do now? I don't even know what to do. I got this one with the good gearing, this one with the limited slip. I mean, basically, if the limited slip from this will fit into here, that's the way I'm going to go. If not, this one has the damage. I could really swap this bell housing off or take another bell housing off of a different transmission if I can find one. But yeah, I'm super stoked about this. So this is going to be an awesome addition to the track car. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys. I literally just figured this out about 5 minutes ago. So I'm really stoked on it. Running into a bit of a problem with the whole strut tower seam welding deal I got going on here. It's kind of my own stupid fault. I've got everything in primer, and I really thought that was going to be good enough, but if you look closely, you can see that I'm getting a little bit of rust starting in the seams, so I'm actually going to have to grind some stuff, a few of these welds a little bit, and redo them. The problem isn't, at first I thought the problem was just me doing the weld and not sealing everything up good enough. Well, the problem is I'm an idiot, and the car is outside, and anytime it rains, before when I had the car on just the 2 jack stands and slanted down on the back, all the water that was sitting up here had nowhere to really run off, and it was no fender on, no, I guess the fender kind of channels the rainwater down and out the front. Well, I was just getting all the rainwater coming in here, and I live, I mean, less than a mile. The beach is less than a mile that way, so anytime there's water in the air, it's kind of salt water in the air. So I'm still gonna go at it with the other side. I'm gonna be way more careful, and I'm gonna try to get seam sealer on it as soon as possible. For now, I got to go back in, and even a few areas up here, I'm just gonna wire wheel it all out. Yeah, you can see inside there. I'm gonna have to wire wheel it all out and kind of start again, which I'm not too happy about, but it is what it is, so I'm just gonna have to get started on it. So before, on the driver's side, you can see the main things I want to address are the weld, or the seam right there, and down under here, a little bit in the corner right there. It's really not too bad. A little bit right here. I'm just pretty much gonna strip off the old seam sealer, treat the rust that's going on, and then re-seam seal it again. That way, this car is gonna sit outside. It's not gonna be kept in the garage, so I'm gonna seal everything back up again rather than leave it all open. So I did a little bit of poking and prodding, and this is what I got so far. It's really not the end of the world. I mean, compared to what you'll find up in a Northeast car, this is really nothing. Got a little bit right there. It's on the inside too, I'm guessing, because that little plug was missing. Probably some water got in there, settled down at the bottom. No big deal. Again, same as on the other side. This little spot right here is where they welded, and it's got a little bit of rust around there. A few spots here, under the tower there. Not too bad here. A lot of people will go right away with the wire wheel to get this off, but I find that it makes a lot of a mess. So what I like to do is I'll just use a real sharp straight razor and carve off all the excess that I can get to before I go at it with the wire wheel. I also just use a couple of regular cheap picks to get in there. I find that it's better because I can see what's going on. If I go out with the wire wheel, I'm not going to really know if I have to focus on a certain area. So I know that this area, once I wire wheel it, I'll throw a little bit of that rust converter, that cheap crap Rust-Oleum stuff. You spray it on and it turns purpley black, and then you can primer over top of that. So now I'm gonna probably just do a little bit more poking and a little bit more seam sealer removal, and then then go at it with the wire wheel and get it in some primer for the night. Not primer, first I have to do the rust converter and let that dry, cover it all up, let that dry for 24 hours, and then I can primer over top of that. So this is exactly why I'm doing this. This area right here, from looking at the seam sealer, it didn't appear to have anything wrong with it, but then once I started scraping it back, you could see that there was all sorts of rust underneath. And I'm not doing this for looks, and I'm actually not really doing it for the purpose of seam welding either. I've decided to not seam weld this side because it's a huge pain. It's a lot of work for a little return, I feel like. I'm not doing the whole entire shell right now. Maybe eventually I'll go ahead and strip it down and do something like this again. I'm just doing this because my plans are to cage the car. If I'm going to go through all the work of putting a cage in it, I want this shell to last as long as possible. And while the engine's out, it really just makes sense to go ahead and strip this down. I've been working on this side for, I would say, maybe 2 hours, not even. And I'll probably put in a few more hours, and I think I'll be able to get it banged out minus doing any kind of seam welding. That's where I really started to have a hold up, because I had to wait and then prime, and then rust started to come back because I had the fender was off and the primer was exposed, and it was just a giant pain in the ass. So I'm hoping to make this into a little bit quicker of a process. You could see a little more rust on this thing. I'm not even going through the hassle of knocking off any of these extra things that I'm not going to use. Once again, I could do that later. I really plan on taking this thing down to a shell. I would say not every season, but every few seasons. I'll race it for a season and then maybe take the engine out, do some more work to it, and rebuild things back up and do some minor touch-ups here and there. Finally finished all of the rust repair that I had to do, cleaned up all the seams, and got the engine bay in a coat of paint. It's been primed with some self-etching primer, and then I just used regular Krylon rattle can. I had some smoke gray laying around, and unfortunately I ran out of what I had, so I had to go out and get a little bit more, but I'm pretty happy with the results. It's very far from perfect. I could have done a much better job if I really wanted to put more time into it, but I really want to get to driving this car around. I'm going to take the engine out eventually and redo everything again. So for now, this is going to do just fine. So I'm going to pretty much end it here. The next video is going to be me building things back up, putting all of the accessories back in, starting with the brake lines, brake booster, all the body plugs, wiring harness, everything like that. So for now, guys, that's it, and I'll see you later.